So today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a paper pattern for a Buckram based hat. There's a lot of things you need to think about when creating your hat, and mostly it's the design elements. So there's three parts of the hat you need to think about, which are the brim, the side band, and the tip. Okay, so those can all be adjusted to be different sizes and shapes. So this hat has a brim that is narrower in the back and is wider in the top. So it tapers to the back to be narrower. The crown, which is this part of the hat, I made the side band wider in the front and narrower in the back. So it has an angle slope to it. And then the tip of the hat, I have just the same shape as the head size circle. So it's an oval. So that's one way you can do it. There's also, by slashing and spreading your pattern, you can create hats that are different shapes than just straight. So this one tapers outward, right? So the crown angles in an outward direction. And the tip of this one is a circle. It's kind of like a top hat shape. And I made a narrow brim that is wider in the front and the back, wider and then narrower at the side. Okay, so this is kind of my top hat. And then here's another hat, right? So this one has a wide brim, and you can see that the crown is tapered upward, so it goes inward as opposed to outward. So this is created by slashing and reducing your pattern so that it angles inward. And then this tip has a smaller circle at the top. And like I said, this one also has a wide band, wide brim that goes all the way around evenly. And what you're basically looking at are my pattern pieces. So I've created the patterns and then I've taped them together to create a mock-up. So you can see what the hat looks like in 3 dimensions. For this lesson, you're going to need pattern paper, a pencil, and a ruler. And I like the ruler with the holes in the middle so that you can create circles with it by putting a pin on one end and then marking your measurement. But you can also use a compass for those circles as well, like this one, where you can slide the measurement and then create your circle. You're going to need tape and then some paper scissors. So let's get started. So what I have here is a head size circle, which is a master oval pattern used for creating hats. It's supposed to mimic the size and shape of a head. So this one measures 22 inches around for a head size. The way that you can come about this oval is it measures from center front to center back at 7.5 inches and from side to side at 6 3/8 inches. Now, if you need to increase or reduce that size, you will add an 1/8 inch for every 1/2 inch bigger for the head size. So if you use your ruler, you would add an 1/8 inch and go around. So this would be 22.5 inches if I were to go around and add this 1/8 inch. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my ruler and making it perpendicular to this line of the oval, and every maybe 1/2 inch or so I'll make another mark, and I'm just measuring an 1/8 inch above that head circle. So if I were to need to make this bigger, I would just redraw my line and cut it out at that size. Okay, but what I'm going to do is use this 22.5 head size. Now, what I need to do is I'm going to start with the brim. Let's say I want the brim to be a 2-inch wide brim. So I'm going to take this head size circle, and from where the circle edge is, I'm going to measure up 2 inches and do a mark. And then I'm just going to go around the whole circle this way. Okay, and then now I will make that a solid line. Okay, the next thing I didn't mention, but we need to do is mark the center front, the center back, and the side to side markings. So I have a dot in the center of my circle, and I actually did mark where the sides are, but I'm gonna make them bigger so that you can see them. So this is the side, and then here is my center front and center back. So for center front, you're gonna write a C and an F. And then for center back, you're gonna write a C and a B. And then we got 2 S's for side seams. So what we're looking at here is the brim, and this is the part that would make up the brim. And we would cut out the center part where the head size is. We have a couple options here. Right now, this brim is evenly 2 inches around, but we could make the center front longer and the center back shorter, or we can make the whole thing wider overall or narrower overall. What I want to do is, I think I want to add about 1/2 inch to the front, so I can mark that. And then I think I want it to taper to 2 inches at the side seam, and I want it to come in about 3/4 of an inch in the back, so that it's much smaller in the back. So I've marked my points where I want it to end and finish. So I'm going to go around and adjust those measurements. Okay, and so now because my hat is going to be symmetrical, what I'm going to do is cut it out and then true up this side to that side so that it's more even. So now my brim is trued up. I made sure that I folded it in half and then in half again so that I really got the proportions of the hat spot on so that it's completely divided into 4s. The other thing that we need to do, so the outside of the brim does not get any seam allowance. It is exactly at the finished edge that we want it to be. However, the inside of the head, the hat size circle, the head size circle, gets a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the inside. So I'm going to draw that so that that becomes the place where I cut the paper. Also, I didn't mention this before, but when choosing a head size, you want to give yourself maybe an extra 1/2 inch for ease, because by the time you create the hat and add fabric, you will most likely make the hat a little too tight for the head. So you want to give yourself an extra 1/2 inch when choosing the head size. Okay, so there is the brim. Also, on the pattern, you will want to write the head size and perhaps what this hat is for, and if there's an actor who's going to wear it, you're going to write the actor's name on it as well. So the next decision that we're going to have to make is, how do we want our hat side band to look? How tall is it? Is it the same height all the way around, or does it adjust height? So I'm going to start, we know that our head size is 22 inches. So I'm going to start by measuring here at the end of my ruler where 1 is, and then it is an 18-inch ruler, but I need another, let's see, 4 inches. So I'm going to add 4 inches to this side. So I'm marking another 4 inches. The next thing we need is, I know it's a little hard to see in the camera, I just barely made it. And then I'm going to draw a line across there. Okay, so that'll be our base for the side band. And I think I want this hat to be about, let's see, I'll make it a very, very shallow headband, side band. So I'm gonna do maybe just a little bit, like 1.5 inches. But I kind of feel like maybe it tips a little bit, which is kind of tricky. Maybe it tips up to 2 inches in the center, and then back down to 1.5. Okay, so that's going to make an arc of a side band. It's going to come up and down. What I can do to draw this is use my French curve because that's got a nice slope to it. And really, I only need to do half of it. So that's about, half of it's about 11 inches. So if I can get half of the shape, I'll cut it out and then fold it in half and give myself, copy it to the other side. So that's my halfway point, which would be my center front. So I'm going to write CF on it. And then I'll cut this out. I'm also going to mark the back, which was the where it started with my ruler at 1, and I'm going to mark the other side of this band, which is also the back. So I have 2 lines creating the ends for this. So I just quickly cut out this side band and I folded it in half. Okay, so now I can show you how I would kind of true up this pattern. I'm going to start here. I don't want it to curve at the center front. I want it to be pretty straight. And then I want it to gradually curve towards the back, following my line. Okay, so that is my pattern. It goes from, what was that, 1.5, 2 inches to 1.5. The other thing I need to make sure I do is give myself a seam allowance, because when I make this side band out of Buckram, it needs to overlap. Okay, so I'm going to give myself 1 inch. I just roughly added a lot of material in the back, but I'm going to actually measure 1 inch. So this is the finished seam. So this would be CB center back, and this is the cut edge, which I'm going to cut. And then I'll do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to write CB and then measure 1 inch, which I think this is about 1 inch. It is. So it's already cut. Then we need to mark our side seam, or side of the hat. So what I'm going to do is match up my center back lines and the fold of the center front. And I'm going to take the center front and fold it to the center back line. Ignore the extra 1 inch. And then you're going to crease it. And that will be your side, the side of your hat mark. And I'll write an S for that. So the last part of my pattern is the tip of the hat. And you also have some options with this. You could make circles or an oval. I could trace the head size oval to create my tip. I could just make it exactly the same shape, which I might do. But you could also make it smaller or bigger. So you can have the hat go outward, or you could have it come in like a cone. I'm going to show you quickly just how to make a circle. So if your side band was pretty tall, it can transition from this oval to a circle. So if I were to take my 22 head size, there's a little math involved. There's a formula for the radius, which is what I need to make that circle. And my head size is 22. So the formula to find radius is radius equals the circumference over 2 times pi. Okay, so that actually comes out to 3.5 inches, which is actually a nice round number. So what I'm going to do is use my compass. I'm going to use the push pin to hold it in place here. And I've set it to 3.5, and I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to create my circle. This compass is a little wobbly, so I'm going to adjust it later, true it up. Okay, so there's my circle for 22 inches. Another thing is that ruler that I have, so here's just another piece of paper. My clear plastic ruler, which I really like, has these holes in it as well. So what we could do is also put a push pin at, you have to put it at 1/2 inch. So since I need 3.5, I have to put my pencil at 4 inches. And then I can use this as my compass as well. It's just a little tricky when you have no room on your table, but you get the idea. So you can make a circle with this ruler as well. What I'm going to do is just copy my head size, the oval. Okay, so to review, I have my brim pattern, I have my tip and my side band. Each of them are measured with 22-inch head size. On the brim, I have the seam allowance on the inside of the head size, and this part gets cut out. On the tip, I have the seam allowance on the outside of the head size. And then on the headband, it's 22 inches long, and it has a 1-inch overlap on each side of the back.